$30 billion gone. Evaporated into thin air like cheap cologne on a sweaty neck. That is more money than the United States spent fighting the entire First World War, wiped out in a single week. But before we get to the blood on the pavement and the tears in the champagne, we have to go back to the party. The greatest, loudest, most delusional party in human history. It is October 22nd, 1929. You are walking down Wall Street, and the air smells like ozone and expensive cigars. Everyone you know is rich, not just comfortable, but properly, recklessly rich. Your barber just bought a Packard. Your elevator operator is trading Radio Corporation of America on his lunch break. There is a sense of invincibility that borders on collective psychosis. Why work for a living? Why sweat and toil when you can just throw a few bucks into the market and watch it multiply like rabbits in heat? This isn't economics anymore. It's alchemy. And the high priest of this black magic is a man named Irving Fisher, the most respected economist in the land. A man with a brain so big, it barely fits in his skull. He stands up on this very day, looks the American public dead in the eye, and delivers the single most embarrassing sentence in financial history. Stock prices have reached what looks like a permanently high plateau. A plateau. He didn't just say things were good. He said gravity had been officially repealed. And you believed him. Of course you did, because you are buying on margin. That is the dirty little secret fueling this bonfire. You put down $10 to buy $100 worth of stock. The broker lends you the rest. It is brilliant. It is genius. It is literally free money. As long as the line on the graph keeps going up, you are leveraged to the eyeballs, floating on a cloud of debt, convinced that the laws of mathematics don't apply to you. You look at the ticker tape and see your future. A yacht, a mansion, a life of endless leisure. You don't see the cliff. You don't see that you are standing on a trapdoor with a noose around your neck, and the executioner is just finishing his lunch break. Wednesday, October 23rd. The sun comes up, and for most of the day, the illusion holds. The market is a bit shaky, sure, like a drunk trying to walk a straight line at 3 a.m., but nobody panics. Not yet. You're still looking at those paper profits, calculating whether to buy the summer home in the Hamptons or Newport. But then in the final hour of trading, something strange happens. The music stops. The beast blinks. Out of nowhere, a wave of sell orders hits the floor. It isn't a trickle. It is a sudden, violent spasm. In just 60 minutes, the market sheds 4.6% of its value. Now, 4.6% might not sound like the end of the world to you. You might think, it's just a correction, a little dip. But remember that margin we talked about? That 10% down payment? A 4.6% drop doesn't just scratch the paint. It smashes the windshield. It eats into your equity immediately. The cushion is gone. And when the closing bell rings, the silence on the floor isn't peaceful. It is heavy. It is the silence of a man realizing he just bet the mortgage on a horse with 3 legs. That night, the real horror show begins. It doesn't happen on Wall Street. It happens in the back offices of the brokerage houses. The margin clerks, pale, overworked vampires of the financial world, are working frantically under the glow of green lamps. They are typing out telegrams that will ruin breakfast for thousands of people. Account underwater, wire cash immediately or we sell. This is the dreaded margin call. It is not a request. It is a threat. You are sitting at home, listening to the radio, trying to relax, and suddenly you realize that unless you can come up with thousands of dollars in cash before the market opens tomorrow, you are finished. The permanently high plateau just developed a massive crack, and for the first time, looking down into the abyss, you realize there is no net. Welcome to Black Thursday. It is the morning of October 24th, and the city of New York is waking up with a collective hangover, but this isn't from the bootleg gin. It is from fear. Pure, cold, stomach-churning fear. The telegrams sent out last night have done their job perfectly. Thousands of investors, people exactly like you, have spent the night scraping together every penny they could find. You robbed the kids' piggy banks. You begged your skeptical brother-in-law for a loan. You pawned your wife's jewelry, all just to cover the margin. You wired the money. You think you are safe. You tell yourself, I paid the man. I held the line. You poor, sweet fool. You didn't hold the line. You just threw fresh meat into a grinder that is spinning at 10,000 RPM. The opening bell rings at 10 a.m. sharp. Usually, this is the sound of opportunity, a golden chime of capitalism. Today, it sounds like a fire alarm in a locked theater. The moment that gong hits, the floor of the New York Stock Exchange explodes. There is no polite trading today. There is no discovery of price. There is only a primal, animalistic scream. Sell! Everyone is trying to get out at the exact same second. It is like watching a dam burst, but instead of water, it is millions of shares of stock flooding the floor. The sell orders aren't coming in piles. They are coming in avalanches. The brokers on the floor are literally being physically crushed by the weight of the paper orders being shoved at them. And here is where the technology, the pride of the modern age, betrays you. The ticker tape, that magical ribbon of paper that tells you the price of your dreams, starts to chatter. Click, 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 but it cannot keep up. The volume is too violent. The machine is choking on the panic. Within minutes, the tape is late. First by 10 minutes, then 20, then an hour. Do you understand what that means? It means you are flying a plane blind in a hurricane. You look at the board in your broker's office and see General Electric trading at 315. But on the floor, miles away, it is already trading at 283. You're trying to sell a ghost. You scream at your broker to sell at the market, but he doesn't know what the market is anymore. He is just a body in a mosh pit of despair, waving his arms, drowning in paper tickets, screaming until his voice gives out. The noise is deafening. It is a roar, a physical wall of sound that shakes the windows. Men are tearing at their starched collars, sweating through their expensive wool suits. The specialists, the guys supposed to maintain order and buy when others sell, are overwhelmed. They look at the tidal wave of selling, and they do the only rational thing. They step back, they refuse to buy. And when the buyers disappear, the floor drops out of the world. A stock that was $100 is suddenly $80, then $60, then silence. No bid. Zero. It is not a market anymore. It is a crime scene. You stand there watching your life savings dissolve, not because you made a bad bet, but because the entire casino just decided to burn down while you were still sitting at the roulette table. The fear isn't just about money anymore. It is existential. It is the realization that the system you trusted, the permanently high plateau, was built on quicksand, and you are sinking fast. It is noon on Black Thursday, and the patient is coding on the table. The New York Stock Exchange is a chaotic mess of screaming men and shredded paper. But across the street, in the quiet, mahogany-paneled sanctuary of 23 Wall Street, the House of Morgan, the masters of the universe, are having a meeting. These are the men who actually own the world. Thomas Lamont of Morgan, Charles Mitchell of National City Bank, Albert Wiggin of Chase. They aren't sweating. They aren't screaming. They are smoking cigars and deciding how much it will cost to buy reality back. They pulled together a war chest of roughly $250 million. To them, this isn't a systemic collapse. It's a technical glitch that can be fixed with enough cash and a good performance. They are going to bluff the entire global economy. At 1:30 p.m., the doors to the exchange floor swing open and out steps their champion, Richard Whitney. He is the vice president of the exchange, a man with a jawline you could crack walnuts on and the confidence of a god. He doesn't run. He strides. The roar of the panic dies down to a hush. Everyone watches him. He walks straight to the post for U.S. Steel. The stock is trading at a desperate, bloody discount. Whitney looks the specialist in the eye and shouts, loud enough for the back row to hear, "I bid $205 for 10,000 shares." The crowd gasps. $205? That is significantly above the current market price. He isn't just buying, he is ostentatiously overpaying. He is planting a flag in the ground. Then he moves to the next post and the next, buying huge blocks of blue-chip stocks. It is pure theater. It is a magic trick designed to say one thing: we are here, we are rich, and we will not let this market fall. And the tragic part, it works. The sheep see the shepherd and they stop running off the cliff. Fear turns to relief. The selling stops, prices rally. By the closing bell, the market has actually recovered most of its losses. You, the little investor, wipe the cold sweat from your forehead. You think the nightmare is over. You think the big boys have your back. You go home and pour a stiff drink, toasting the bankers who saved civilization. You don't realize that they didn't fix the dam. They just put a very expensive, very temporary piece of duct tape over the crack. They bought you a weekend, not a future. Friday, October 25th, feels like waking up in a hospital bed. You're groggy, you hurt everywhere, but hey, you are alive. The market wobbles, slips a bit, but it doesn't crash. The banker's put, from Thursday, seems to be holding the line. You breathe. You actually think you might survive this. But then comes the weekend. And in the financial world, a weekend during a crash isn't a break. It is a pressure cooker. While you are trying to enjoy a roast chicken dinner with your family, pretending everything is fine, the lights in the Wall Street skyscrapers never turn off. The margin clerks are still there. They haven't slept in 48 hours. They are fueled by stale coffee and panic, sifting through the wreckage of millions of accounts. They are doing the math, and the math is horrifying. They realize that the recovery on Thursday wasn't nearly enough to cover the massive gaping holes in the ledger. So, they start typing again. Saturday and Sunday become a blur of Western Union bicycles. The telegrams go out by the thousands. They are delivered to golf courses, to country clubs, to suburban front doors. The message is always the same, brutal and short: more cash, now. But here is the kicker. There is no more cash. You already gave them everything on Thursday. You tapped out the savings, the rainy day fund, the kids' college money. You are dry. You are wrung out. And as you sit there on Sunday night, staring at that piece of yellow paper, a cold, hard realization hits you. The bankers didn't buy the market on Thursday to save you. They bought it to create enough liquidity so they could get out. They propped up the price just long enough to offload their own bags before the temple collapses. You aren't a partner in this economy. You are the exit liquidity. By Sunday night, the mood in America shifts from anxiety to terror. The organized support is a myth. The rumors start swirling that the big bears are going to short the market into oblivion on Monday. Everyone makes the same decision at the exact same time. I have to get out at any price. Just get me out. You go to bed Sunday night praying for a miracle, but deep down you know the truth. The dam is cracked, the water is rising, and you are chained to the floor. If Black Thursday was a panic, Black Tuesday is a funeral. It is October 29th, 1929, and the sky over New York is gray and heavy, as if the heavens themselves are preparing to weep for your bank account. The opening bell doesn't even finish ringing before the floor of the exchange turns into a mosh pit of insanity. But this time, something is different. You look toward the post for U.S. Steel, waiting for Richard Whitney, the White Knight, the savior with the slicked-back hair and the open checkbook. You wait for him to stride out and bid 205 again. You wait, and you wait. And then the cold, hard realization hits you like a shovel to the face. He isn't coming. The bankers have left the building. The smart money has decided that today, they aren't catching a falling knife. They are letting it hit the floor, and your foot is directly underneath it. Without that artificial support, the trapdoor swings wide open. This isn't trading. This is a slaughter. It is liquidation in its purest, ugliest form. Sell at the market. Sell at any price. Just get me out. Scream 10,000 telegrams from Maine to California. But who is buying? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. You're trying to sell water to a drowning man. The ticker tape, that sadistic little machine, falls behind immediately. An hour late. 2 hours late. By noon, it is so far behind the real trading that it is essentially reporting ancient history. You're staring at the tape in a brokerage office in Chicago, seeing a stock at $40 and thinking you still have a chance. But back in New York, that stock is already trading at $20. You're bankrupt and you don't even know it yet. You are a walking ghost. The confusion is absolute. There are air pockets in the prices. Stocks that were trading at $60 suddenly trade at $40 without a single transaction in between. The floor has simply vanished. Rumors fly faster than the trades. The Buffalo Exchange has closed. Troops are marching on Wall Street. Goldman Sachs is bust. Most of it is hysteria, but the reality is bad enough. The volume is sickening. 16 million shares dumped in a single day. The floor of the exchange is literally covered in a blizzard of torn paper, order tickets, and broken dreams. Men are weeping openly. Grown men in three-piece suits sobbing into their hands because they have to go home and tell their wives that the house, the car, the future, it's all gone. By the time the closing bell mercifully rings, the United States has lost $14 billion in value in a single day. That is the entire national debt, wiped out between breakfast and dinner. The telephone lines are jammed. You can't even call your broker to scream at him. And the worst part? The silence that follows. The shouting stops. The ticker finally chatters to a halt hours later, and you are left standing in the wreckage. The party wasn't just over. The police had come in, busted up the furniture, and set the house on fire. You realize then that the money wasn't just numbers on a page. It was your life, and it didn't just disappear. It was stolen by the very greed you thought would make you a king. The screaming has stopped. The ticker tape is finally silent. A tangled mess of paper on a dirty floor. Now comes the part that history books love to fetishize. The windows. You have heard the stories, haven't you? The image of bankers and brokers raining down from the skyscrapers of Manhattan like sad, pinstriped birds. The legends say the sidewalks of Wall Street were so cluttered with bodies that pedestrians had to walk in the gutters. Now, truth be told, the actual number of jumpers was exaggerated by the press. Drama sells papers, after all. But the spirit of those stories? That was absolutely real. There is a grim joke from that week about a man checking into a hotel on the 30th floor. The clerk looks up, deadpan, and asks, "Do you want the room for sleeping or for jumping?" It's funny because it hurts. It's funny because for a generation of men who defined their entire existence by the number in their bank account, the window felt like the only door left open. The real tragedy wasn't usually a physical death. It was a psychological one. You didn't just lose your money, you lost your name. You went from being a captain of industry, a genius who mastered the universe, to a broke guy with a mortgage he can't pay and a suit he can't afford to dry clean. The glass didn't need to shatter for you to be broken. You walked home that night not as a temporarily embarrassed millionaire, but as a casualty of your own hubris, staring into the mirror and realizing the person looking back at you had absolutely nothing left. And so the Roaring Twenties didn't just end. They were strangled in a dark alley behind the New York Stock Exchange. The crash was merely the opening act for the Great Depression, a decade of misery where the permanently high plateau turned into a valley of breadlines and dust bowls. But here is the punchline, the cruelest joke of all. We look back at these people in their sepia-toned photos, with their starched collars and their naive hope, and we laugh. We think they were fools. We tell ourselves, we have algorithms now. We have regulations. We have iPhones. We could never be that stupid again. Spoiler alert, you are wrong. The technology changes, but the beast does not. Whether it is tulips in the 17th century, internet stocks in the 90s, subprime mortgages in 2008, or whatever digital coin your taxi driver is telling you to buy today, the cycle is eternal. Greed is the only renewable resource that humanity never runs out of. We will build another tower of cards. We will convince ourselves that this time is different. And we will act shocked, when gravity kicks in and the whole thing comes crashing down on our heads again. The market didn't die in 1929. It just went to sleep, waiting for the next generation of suckers to wake it up. Sweet dreams.